in and try to take over different parts of our territory in the northern plains. So that was a peace treaty, 1851, 1868, Fort Laramie Treaty. And why that's significant today is because a lot of that's unceded land that was taken from us illegally today. So when we say that's original treaty territory land on where this pipeline is going through today, it's true. A lot of those sacred sites we talk about, a lot of those different types of places at which we pray to, because we're Star people, it was along the corridor of this whole project. It was along where the pipeline was supposed to be routed, which came across original treaty territory lands. And to kind of show you some history on why that was taken, and why they keep telling our people that this government and these people that are for fossil fuels, they keep telling our people that you guys ain't for the national interest of this country. They keep telling our people that. Yeah. So I have to go and tell them our story. So they better understand that our people has given up so much to this national interest, whether they understand that or not. And I want to share a story with you. Just a couple of little things. This happened all over the country, the Native nations, all over. The government, I always got to remember, our government was founded on violence. We always have to remember that. And whether you know it or not, this government still continues to do things in a violent way. But what I want to tell you is 1868 was our last thing, our Ochete Shakoi, our 7 council fires is what we call it. We're not known as the Sioux people. That was given to us from what we call a different people that recognized us in a different way. They got Sioux from Mitawasu. His people asked, who are those people over there? Who are those people along there? And Mitawasu was snake. The river looks like a snake river like this. That's where those people come from. So when they said Mitawasu, pretty soon then these people came over here and said, oh, those guys are Sioux. But we're actually Ochete Shakoi, 7 council fires. I'm from the Ihunktawa. That's where I come from the Cuthead Band. So, moving forward, after 1868, which was the last agreement we've had with the federal government, which our chiefs, our headsmen all signed off, and a peace treaty with the government, which had over 60 million acres of land. 60 million we were afforded by that treaty.
Why can I ask you something? Why did they decide to make a treaty with you?
Because they just wanted to end the wars. They said, if you stay on this delegated land, we'll leave you alone, you leave us alone, and you can continue your way of life.
Because you were beating them.
Absolutely. But I just want to continue on with the history. 1877, really quickly, I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can, but I want you to really understand this. 1877, Ulysses S. Grant, we all know that president, did an executive order to take our Black Hills from our people. And why they took the Black Hills from our people? Because of the Great Western Migration. They found gold in the California, that part of the country. So we had migration from the East Coast to the West Coast. And while they were doing that, they found gold on our land. So they did, in the original treaty agreement, they were supposed to supply us with food rations, healthcare, all these different things to live on this land. So in 1877, when Ulysses S. Grant did that executive order to confiscate the Black Hills from our people, they did an act of Congress, and this is the actual name. It was called the Act or Starve Bill. So what they did was, they said, you know what, we agreed to your treaty, we're going to help you supply all these things until the grass grows and the river flows. That's how long that treaty is supposed to be. It's infinite. That's all states said in there. And they're supposed to provide us with these things. So they said, you know what, we're going to pull all your rations if you don't let us take this Black Hills. So that's why that Act or Starve Bill was created and passed by Congress And you heard Amy Goodman say consultation. That's one time. They never ever did consultation with Native nations. Many times. They just did it and took our Black Hills away from us, which they generate millions of dollars off of state parks and tourist attractions in the state of South Dakota today, which is where you see the Mount Rushmore, all the presidents, right?
Yeah.
That's on our land.
And why was that land important to you?
Because that's the most sacredest place we call on Turtle Island. There's a reason why where we live is in the center of Turtle Island. We're in the center. The Black Hills are in the center.
And what's Turtle Island?
Turtle Island is the North American continent. If you ever look at the shape of it, it looks like a turtle.
And so what happened? How much gold did they take out of those hills?
So, to my recollection, it was over $3 trillion of gold they took out of there. But I'll get to that story as I move forward on what they offered us later on. Okay, why money is not important to our people, and I'll tell you that. But by 1889, they shrunk us down into reservations on what you see Standing Rock today. Because of things like the camp, the government and the people don't like when Indian people gather. It's always the history will tell us that they get scared when we gather. Oh, what are they going to do? You know? So they had to separate us in different reservations. Our Ochete Shakoi in 1889 is how we became our Standing Rock boundaries in which we see today. Which, again, they took more acres of land away, separated us, and put us on these specific areas of land. It separated our people. And the government did that without our consultation, without approval, again, of my nation. So let me go back to you when I say national interest of this country. You guys don't like the national interest of this country. You're not helping us. What did we give to this country? $3 trillion of gold. Moving forward, just to do one couple more examples. 1944, the Flood Control Act, which is better known as the Pick-Sloan Act. They flooded our people's land, our pristine land where all the animals, and we're able to grow things and stay warm in the low-lying areas of our land. The Corps of Engineers and the government, once again, without consultation, flooded our communities. And the community I represent in Cannonball flooded us out and took over 300 of our homes, and we had to rebuild. And why they did that is because now they're using our land where our people were buried. Our bones and our ancestors have risen off that river. And all they do is they give us a number and they throw all the pile of bones in there. And that's where our ancestors, or some of them that were buried on that low-lying area, are today. The government did that, once again. And why they did that is because we had to sacrifice again. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe had to sacrifice again to power the whole region through hydropower. WAPA, Western Area Power Association, generates $800 to $900 million a year off of our land, off of the people they flooded. And we had to rebuild with no help. So when I always go back to this saying, first it was our land. They try to kill our food source off, our buffalo. Now today, they're coming after our water. That's why it's so significant moving forward and why you need to know the history. And when we say whatever we have left for our people on Standing Rock, we have to preserve that now. We're not against the national interest of this country. We never have been. We're a giving people, but we have no more left to give. And those are the histories that people need to understand moving forward and why it's so significant on why we're there today. Just to share one last fact for you leading up to this point before we move on to the current events today and what's happening out there is our way of life, like Tokata says, she's 13 years old. Our way of life is to teach our young ones our history, our culture, our ways of life, so they know who they are, where they come from. That's why it's so important. 130 years ago, our great Sioux Nation was the only people to ever defeat the U.S. government in battle on U.S. soil. I don't know if you ever knew that. The Battle of the Little Bighorn, our people. And you're saying, how did we do that? People were telling us we had overwhelmingly odds against us. How did you guys do that? Because our way of life and our ceremonies were guided by the Creator. We're closely guided by the Creator in a way you'll never understand. You can never explain. And what we was told at that time, we set up a council lodge 130 years ago. And we brought all our headsmen in there. They had ceremony. And they were guided by the Creator on how to defeat the U.S. government. 130 years ago. Now, to today. Now we have to battle the government again in a different way. We did the same protocol. We set up our council lodge in July on the overflow camp, which is they call the Ochente Shakoi camp at that time. We set that council lodge up. We followed the same protocol as we did in our history, in our way of life. We followed those same protocols. And when we did that in that ceremony, they told us we need to, if we're going to win, the only way we're going to win is if we move forward with peace and prayer. That's the only way we're going to win this fight. So moving forward today, we continue to do that. Peace and prayer, and you'll win. And I remind everybody that's a part of this whole movement to move forward in peace and prayer wherever you may be when you're associated with Standing Rock in this movement. Once again, we're guided by protocol. Once again, we were told if we do this, we'll win. And when that decision came on December 4th, and I understand it's not over, but we just got to continue to follow the guidance of the Creator and we'll win. That's why it's so significant today on why our culture is so important to share, like Mark said, to learn, and to teach the people once again how to live.
I wanted to ask Chase and Cody if you want to weigh in on this. I think here in New York State, we fought off the fracking industry. We in this very room, campaigned hard, we organized hard for nearly a decade, and we banned fracking. This fight is a fight against fracking. This is fracked oil coming out of western North Dakota. It's also a fight about climate change, but it's principally a fight about indigenous sovereignty. And it occurs to me that something really new has been created in these camps. The protest camp, Ochente Shakoi and Sacred Stone, and that something incredible has happened there in this alliance of all these different parts of the movement. I wanted to just ask if you could paint a picture for these people who haven't been there. What happens on a daily basis there? Obviously there are protests that are constantly happening, or protection ceremony, I don't know how you would describe it, but there are very significant actions. But also about the values of the camps, and the values, the indigenous values that are coming through, that are teaching us in the justice movement, the environmental movement, the movement against environmental racism. What do these camps have to teach us? Because I think you've been both very incredibly vocal advocates of that sense of values and what we have to do now, because I think it's giving us new life and new breath and new energy in the movement that we are all a part of. Can you speak a bit about what it's like there and what do they stand for you?
Yes. So what the camp is doing right now is providing a focal point for an international spiritual monument. We have worldviews, we have knowledges, we have metaphysics and epistemologies, cosmologies, mythologies. All of these things that we know, we've known them for tens of thousands of years. We've known that the air is our breath. We call that grandfather's breath. We know that the water is the bloodline of Mother Earth and the bloodline of the universe. These are spiritually liberating concepts that have to happen up here. They have to happen here and here. Because what we are trying to teach people is that not just brown Indians were colonized, but everybody of every phenotype was colonized.
You're here. Yeah.
Everybody had their mind separated from their spirit, their labor separated from me. This is what we're up against, is this usurpation that capital, the logic of capital and debt, and what that really means for our modern societies. We're trying to communicate that to the world because we need a different value system, one that values water resources. We can holler all day about water being sacred and show you scientifically how it dances when you sing to it. But maybe you're on a level where you have to understand it's good business to protect water because water is national security. All economic value of any form derives from water and its security. So we're trying to get that out. People are freezing out there on the front line right now. All the people you saw up here in the beginning, those are all frontline warriors that I'm honored to call friends and brothers. So right now, we're witnessing an intense brutalization. And it's like we're the new ghost dancers. And today, 126
Who are the
years
ghost dancers? Let them know who the ghost dancers are.
Today, 126 years ago, Sitting Bull was assassinated on this day. And the ghost dance was a movement to revive our power and revive the old ways. But only this time, we're not alone. We have a world of allies. That's why it's important that you're here. It's important that you hear. It's important that you hear our truths and you share your truths. You have networks that we don't have. We have networks you might not have. But we have to join together and strengthen it because we're all in this together. They're coming after us right now. But in this process, they're coming after your constitutional rights.
I've seen some remarkable things. I've seen lines of water protectors walk directly up to police who were militarized police with full riot gear, with tear gas, with rubber bullets, with M4 rifles, with zip ties, with concussion grenades, and talk to them and say, we love you, we're protecting your kids' water as well. And there's a big debate at the camp itself that I've heard, how best are we to love these police? That's mind-blowing. Can you talk a little bit, anyone about this idea of, love your enemy, love the people who you're fighting against? How does that happen internally? What is that about?
Well, the police and the law enforcement, they don't understand that we're not just fighting for our water. We're fighting for their water too. They don't understand that. It should be obvious because water is life. Everybody needs water. Every living thing on this planet needs water to live. And something as simple as that is being overturned by this greed. And I just don't know how to explain it. Like, we had a march, we were running to the Capitol to just get our voices out. And keep in mind that the majority of us, like 80% of us, are women and children. We are met at this Capitol by armed riot police. Kids have to go up there just trying to speak, speak, let them know what is happening. And we are met there with 60 armed police who are acting like these children are terrorizers. And just that image of children standing there next to these police who seem to have no emotion. I don't understand how a human being can treat another human being in that way.
Let me just add also that while people are in prayer in front of these line of riot police, I've watched them simply just mace the whole lot and pepper spray the whole lot.
In prayer.
While they're kneeling, praying in front of them. And then the North Dakota Police Department denying these things. Denying, you spoke about this earlier today, Chase, the denials of the Morton County Sheriff's Department. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. So, one of New York's very own, a young woman named Sophia Wolanski. That's right, she was always There's two things happened that night. I was watching it on the live feed and I zoomed right out there. You gotta understand, like we're not mobilized warriors, like ready to sacrifice for it all. Some of them are, but I'm a family man. I have 3 kids, I'm an attorney. I'm married to the pediatrician that was arrested, Dr. Sarah Jumping Eagle, who is a badass in her own That night, I went out there and I witnessed just indiscriminate water blasting of people who were in the freezing cold. It was 10 degrees below the freezing temperature that night, 7 to 10 degrees. And they water blasted everybody. I got water blasted. And then I left probably about 2 in the morning, and 2 hours later is when Sophia Wolanski had her arm blown wide open by some explosive device that was deployed by law enforcement. The very next day, law enforcement, and this is how it is in North Dakota. You gotta understand, North Dakota is its own little animal, okay? The law enforcement literally sends press releases to the media and it goes out as the truth. So they claimed 2 things. One, that they did not use explosive that night. And thankfully that was refuted by video evidence. They tried to blame Sophia. They tried to blame Sophia for her own injury, claiming that she had improvised some explosive device. The second thing, they said they only used water cannons or water hoses to put out fires that the protesters had started. Thankfully, again, that was refuted by video evidence. That's what we mean when things are different now. We have our own media networks to tell the truth. There was a camera woman working with Josh, got shot by a rubber bullet. Like she was live streaming it and they just shot her. So things are really, I mean, they're intense out there. It changes you when you're out there. And it's for the better. Because we all, I mean, we don't know what we're facing the next 4 years. We don't have to talk about all of that right now, but we are facing an attack and a degradation on our very democracy. And if we don't stand up, somebody else without our best interest in mind is going to determine our destiny. We've got to stop that.
So, in prayer, you got the message, peaceful water protecting, right? That's how you're going to win. Is that still the way forward? How do you stay peaceful when people are spraying the women in your life, your friends, when they're beating them, when they're hitting them with rubber bullets, when they're putting them in dog cages and writing numbers on their bodies to signify what number they are in the system? They put the old elders take their clothes off and humiliate them. How do you stay peaceful, man?
That's a good question, but
to get that kind of aggression all the time, how do you do it? Let us know.
But here's kind of a story why I truly believe. I always say this, and we always heard this term before, is things don't happen by chance. Things always happen for a reason. There's a reason why Standing Rock was chosen. There's a reason why Bismarck didn't want it. They tried to put it there. There's a reason why there was a big uproar of movement led by a certain type of culture and a certain type of people. All that is you put that all together, you'll better understand why. I always truly was told by a lot of elders that the Creator created us in a certain way. where we can take so much atrocity and so much genocide over the years and so much things that have happened to our people. He created a certain spirit about us. He created us in a unique way where our spirit will never be broken. And I truly believe that spirit is still held within our people every day. And it's carried on from our ancestors because of our culture and who we are and our way of life. That's why this movement, I believe, truly believe, started with the native people, because our spirit, if you think about it, our history would tell us, they try to exterminate our race. For so many thousands of years, they tried to get rid of us. They couldn't do it. They tried to take our food. That didn't work. Try to kill all our buffalo. Try to take our land. They try to separate us to break our spirit. To hopefully we'll lose our culture and our way of life. But you know what? No matter what you do, because of our way of life and because who we are as a people, and because we're the first peoples of this land which we are on today, that will tell you that our spirit can never be broken. Never. Never has our spirit ever been broken. And that's why our people are up there on the front line. That's why you see young people in our youth. It's in our genes. We're a really resilient type of people where we can take a lot. But you know what? We're the most givingest people in the world as well. That's the reason why we're able to take that, because who we are as a people.
Can us white people have some of that too? I mean, were there not some or other people of color? I mean, you know, were those folks not on the front lines with you too? Were they not also standing in solidarity? Did they not take the beatings and the bullets and the maces and did they not have a bit of that spirit in them too?
Absolutely, and that's what I'm saying, is that there are also other races there. But when they come to Standing Rock, they feel a different type of energy that you would probably only feel in certain places around the world. And anybody that's ever been there and got to be a part of that, it's one of the sacred places in our area in the world. There's a lot of many sacred places in the world. But that energy that's there is something that you can't explain. Something you can't write in a book. But the reason why some of these other people that have come and why this is so important today is because they're learning our way of life. And when you learn the basic principles of who we are as a people, that spirit comes with you. And you're able to stand strong with our people as well. That's why it's so important, and that's why if you come and learn, educate yourself about your surroundings, educate the histories and the atrocities of this country, and educate and learn yourself. If you don't have a culture, if you guys lost that because of what Chase said, colonized, our people are always willing to share who we are as a people. And you learn that, I guarantee you, your spirit will be held high just like our people are.
So we can have it.
You can, yes.
And we did have it.
You did when you learned our ways of life, yes.
Thank you.
Can I also just say, we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to Shailene Woodley. So much of, and so many of us know about Standing Rock because of Shailene's work. And I wanted to just ask you, I was summoned, to this rally in Union Square by you. You called so much attention to this. How is it? And of course, there was a kind of strange through line, I think, from the Bernie Sanders campaign, which rallied so many people across the United States of America, to what happened at Standing Rock. Do you feel that connectivity in your politics? What drew you to Standing Rock? Can you tell a little bit about how you got involved from the beginning?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Is it working? Okay, there we go. In February of this year, I had a friend, a few of them are in the room tonight, a few friends, call me and say, there's a pipeline being built half a mile north of Standing Rock Reservation. Here are the details. We're going to stand with the youth. We're putting a campaign together called Respect Our Water, and we're going to help push this petition out to educate the world about what's going on in Standing Rock. And one of the details that they mentioned to me, I immediately said, yes, I want to be involved, I want to help out. But the detail that rang in my ears and in my heart for the next few weeks after that initial phone call was the fact that this pipeline was originally meant to be built in Bismarck, North Dakota, a predominantly white community. And the community and the people in Bismarck decided that when that pipeline breaks, it would compromise the integrity of their drinking water. So instead of building it there, they moved the pipeline to Standing Rock Reservation. And that got me so angry because it's the same rhetoric and it's the same story that people like me and you and everyone else in this country have been allowing to happen for centuries. The reason why our government has been able to do so much to Native Americans is because of our silence and our decision not to educate ourselves, not from history books that feed us a false Western narrative, but from the source, from the people who have the real stories, who have the real historical trauma, the ancestral trauma, from what their ancestors had to go through because of what my ancestors may have done or may not have done. I don't know. So in February, we linked up with the youth, and I went out to Sacred Stone Camp for the first time in April, I think. And at that point, there was maybe 15, 20 people on the ground. And I was at the DNC with a big group of people. I was a Bernie delegate. And they, straight from the DNC, we met up with the runners who were in Ohio. And our plan was to be with the runners for a few days and then go back to California because we were in an RV driving across the country. And I said to the group of people that I was at the DNC with, hey, we're going to meet up with the youth of Standing Rock Reservation. They're opposing this pipeline. It's a really important cause. If you want to come learn from the runners themselves, from the youth themselves, join us. We had over 40 people join us from the DNC, which was pretty groovy. I mean, to like drop everything that they were doing and to drive to Ohio to learn from a bunch of Native American kids about what was going on in their land. And when we got there, we were so moved and so transformed by, like what Cody was saying, by learning about the spiritual ways of these people. And saying spiritual ways of these people doesn't even sound right. It's just who these people are, who you guys are. You do recognize that that our bodies are made from this soil and we're not going to save this earth. We can't protect this earth. Like all of the slogans as activists that we use constantly, or as environmentalists, we have to protect the earth, we have to save the earth. The earth's going to be fine. We have to realize we have to start with ourselves because we are made from the earth. And humanity is not fine right now. Yeah. So that was one of the biggest takeaways from meeting up with the runners. And from there, we decided to go straight to Standing Rock. And basically, I was there for the whole month of August and then came and went due to some work obligations. But yeah, it's been a journey, and we're just in the middle of it.
Shailene, so you've been all over. You went with Bernie, and you've been at Standing Rock. Do you have hope for where this is all going?
I have so much hope because look at how many of us are talking and coming together and healing and uniting and taking away our egos and taking down our walls and going, I know nothing. Please educate me. I may not be able to relate to you, but I can understand you. Yeah. I don't have to agree with you, but I can stand with you. And that's what's happening. It doesn't matter if you're a Bernie supporter or a Hillary supporter or whoever you supported. What the election did this year was mobilize millions of Americans across this country to say that their voices mattered and to know that their voices matter. And now with the Trump presidency, every single person who's ever been comfortable is not comfortable anymore. We all realize...
Except for a few billionaires.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I'm talking about people but like the color of our skin and privilege and all of these walls that have divided us for so long, those walls are coming down because we do have to stand together. And we do have to recognize that after this night tonight, we've been educated. We know now. We cannot stay silent any longer. We have to mobilize all of our independent networks. We have to encourage every single person in our lives to not let apathy get in the way again, because that is what has led our country to where it is today. Our political advisors and our leaders have been able to do what they've done because we've stayed silent. And Standing Rock is showing all of us that the silence doesn't work, but you can show up in a good way and you can peacefully protest. This is the first movement in history that I know about that for, what has it been, 5 months now on the ground, and not one act of violent aggression from protesters? Do you know any other movement that's ever had that? I don't. There's many successful, beautiful, profound movements, but this has changed the game because we can peacefully win. We can. We just have to stay communicating. We have to stay in communication.
And stay out of sight. So what's happened, it seems, over and over again, is the environmental movement will do a protest. The economic people who have economic issues will do a protest. And we're all sort of doing our own thing. Is that model, have we broken it? Have we moved on? Is this a new intersectionality of all of these climate change, racial justice, water, environmental justice?
I mean, I hope so. We had Black Lives Matter up at Standing Rock on the front lines with Native Americans. And there's historical trauma there too, between all those groups. There's so much trauma and we have to heal.
Can we heal?
Yes! But we can only
heal
is if we don't stay idle and if we don't stay complacent. And complacency is been eradicated this year, I think, for a lot of us in a way that we never allowed beforehand.
So where do we go now? What's the vision for Standing Rock? What is the future? Where do we want to see going now? What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see happen in your community? Is this over?
This movement will never be over. What's happening at Standing Rock is merely a door to so much more. Because there will always be someone who's greedy, somebody who wants to build a pipeline, someone who wants to violate the rights of someone else. And that's just the way the world works. But as long as we stay together and take what we've learned from this movement and keep pushing and keep testing the limits, then we will always have that with us. Like, this movement for president.
You'll be old enough, though. 18 years old, so you can run for president, right?
I think 35. But that's okay. There's plenty of time to build momentum. Can I say something about what happened today?
Yeah.
So we did some actions today, shut down a few banks in New York. Right? We take great pride in how we stop the fracking industry, right? How we have no fracking in New York State. Let me tell you something though. Every one of those banks is a fracking site. They're the biggest fracking sites that we have. Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank, TD, Bank of America. So you spent a good deal of money to get here today. And that's an amazing, beautiful, generous gift. Every cent in your bank account, if you're in one of those banks, is going to the other side, right? Because your money doesn't just stay in a box when you have an investment or whatever in the bank, your bank account. I'm assuming people here have bank accounts, probably a couple of bank accounts. And if you don't take that money out, those banks use that money when you're not looking to do things like fund the Dakota Access Pipeline. So I want everybody here today to take a pledge. You're taking your money out of those banks. Because when we take our money out of those banks, we send a message to the bankers, we know what you're doing. Because you don't have money. If you have money in Bank of America or Chase or Citibank or TD or Wells Fargo, and there's a whole long list, you don't have money in the bank account. You got rubber bullets in the bank account that are being shot at these people. You've got tear gas that is being sprayed at the water protectors. You've got concussion grenades being hurled at your fellow New Yorkers. That's what's in the bank. You have an oil spill happening when you put that ATM card in. That has become an act of violence. That is our system. So we went in there today. It was awesome. There's a whole bunch of live streams with the drummers in the bank. Banks actually have pretty good acoustics. Surprisingly enough, you know what I mean? They shut down all the music clubs in New York City. They shut down CBGB's, but we had the club in the bank today. I suggest we do this in the future. But truthfully, you must take the money out of those banks, and that was the message from today. I'd like anybody to weigh in on how do we defund Dakota, DAPL, defund Dakota Access Pipeline. Can we elaborate on this? Because it's a necessity. Think about what you spent to be here today, and then think about what you have in the bank. You know what I mean? And there are good options. Carver, Black Run Bank in New York, Amalgamated. There's a list of banks that are not funding fossil fuel projects, and you must transfer. It's easy, and live stream it when you do. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, it's very important, because that's what, when we talk about the Occupy movement, Black Lives Matter, we talk about any movement. What we're up against is not a human thing. We've exited the point where people of one color or phenotype oppress another people of another phenotype. We're dealing with a system that has the potential and is oppressing every living thing. So as human beings, if we wake up and realize that we can use currency, whether it's fiat or whatever, as a tool to guide the way we want our leadership to act, they fear that if they know that we'll move our money. And that's what we need to do. Everybody in here has networks that they can activate to move their money. So
defund DAPL, defund DAPL.org, and you can sign up. It'll tell you how to do it, where to put your money, places that are safe to put your money. In the next week or so, there's going to be a lot of this going on. You're going to see a lot more actions that you saw happen today. And I'm telling you today, tune in next week sometime. A very big, important celebrity will be taking their money out of a big, mean bank. And this is real. Look, we can stop this pipeline by doing this. You want to know how we can stop it? We stop it by doing this. This is the soft, gooey underbelly of the beast, of the black snake. And the more pressure we put on them financially, the harder it is to move forward. It doesn't mean a damn thing what Trump does. This is our pathway to stopping this frickin' pipeline. I'm telling you, you want to stop it, put financial pressure on them. And I know there's people in this room that have relationships with these banks, and they could call them tomorrow and say, I'm taking every dime out of this bank if by the 21st you guys haven't made a formal statement to take the money out of this brutal, bloodless taking of our health and the health of our future generations. What do we do now? What do we do now? What do you want to see happen? How do we move forward? This is a fundraiser, so we're going to have to ask you for money at some point. I don't want to keep you here all night. I'd rather just get the money. I don't mean to be crass. I'm so grateful you're here.
This is the funniest host of an anti-fossil fuel panel.
We need it. We need a little bit of laughter sometimes to get through the brutality that we face.
I'm with you.
Yeah, we have a video, right? Can I show this video? We'll talk about
And there was asked about the website, defunddapl.org, isn't that it?
Yes.
Defund and DAPL.org.
Just got a blanket and a towel and I just headed out.
At times it got discouraging, like we wanted to leave, like we just figured this thing wasn't gonna happen, and we just kept praying about it.
Because I'm the spiritual leader, the keeper of the sacred pipe, they asked me to help them organize a chicken shop owner, and that's how we got started. That pipeline, according to our prophecy, it breaks, it's going to poison the water of life. And that's why the young people said, we're going to take a stand that enough is enough. they're the ones that stepped forward, and we told them that we're going to stand together.
In our own community, there's a lot of people that didn't even know anything about what was going on. So we just tried our best just to get the word out there, pass information along, and thank God for social media. It was a prophecy from a long time ago that the Ocheti Shakoti were going to come together, and there was going to be changes in the world.
From the time we first started till today, there's over 200 flags here. And it's not only indigenous people, but we have non-natives that are standing here with us. It's a peaceful, spiritual camp here.
We're staying here because we know that this ain't over. You know, the battle is won, but the war is only beginning. And it's not a war of negativity, it's the war of spirituality. We're trying to overcome this obstacle, you know, in a non-violent way. Instead of fighting with violence, instead of fighting with fire, we're fighting with prayer.
And now today we are sharing the best that we can here at this camp, where there's many tribes and many nations are coming, because a lot of people are looking for their spirituality. That's why we are in this situation right now, because people are spiritually disconnected.
If all these people weren't here right now, they probably would have already went through with this, because all the support is what's helping us.
Let's make a good impact on this earth. Let's leave something good behind. Man, I mean, look at this. This is what I want for my kids, and this is what my future to see. Not pollution in the water, not death everywhere, not, you know, sick trees in the sick land. I don't want them to see that, and I want them to be able to have every right that we have now.
Right now, there's two places that they need money. One is to keep the camp open and going as a burning flame, as a monument, as a symbol of resistance. And the other is, how are we going to move them forward and keep them going forward, right? So why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, so basically, you know, what needs to happen? We always get asked this question quite a bit. We all understand now how the movement started, where the movement is today. Well, what's in the future? What do we need to come about? What's going on today? And I've been approached by that many times. And I prayed about this many times. And I've seen this in my dreams many times. And I know that, you know, when I sit in my position today, I know that I'm not no politician. I don't even know what I'm doing in this position. I've always asked those questions to myself. Why? I'm just, you know, I'm a very young man. But, you know, what I got out of this whole movement and why I think this is so important today, because there's a lot of areas that we need to, of course, cover. But the main thing moving forward, if we just envision over 1,000 years ago when the European settlers have came onto this land, which we stand on today, our people, the first peoples of this land, has taught the European settlers and the visitors that have came how to live here. We taught them how to grow food, build homes, be self-sustaining where they can take care of themselves on this land, which we see today. Our people were willing to share that knowledge with them. And when they didn't need us no more, of course, this is what came about today. But moving to the future, in our beliefs, we've always say things come full circle. And I think we truly have come full circle once again. Moving forward, we understand that the next 4 years are going to be hard. And what I told you is nothing happens by chance. Things happen for a reason. There's a reason why the president election ended the way it did. And we talked a lot. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe has built a lot of allies along the way. And we've always asked what's next. So, being what I'm saying, full circle, is now once again, I believe, truly, within my heart, because I've seen it, that our people, first peoples of this land, are going to teach you again, starting today. This is the start of it today. And how are we going to do that? By transitioning our way of life and who we are as a people, and our culture, and our ceremonies, our spirituality, with the new technologies of today. The things that the Creator has given us. Our prophecies only lead us up to this point. But what are we going to do today for the next 7 generations? Like you guys are saying, Chief Sitting Bull was killed on this day, which our tribe recognizes this day as Chief's Day, to honor all our chiefs. And he always had this quote. He said, Chief Sitting Bull always said, let's put our minds together to see what life we can make for our children. And if you think about that today, what type of life are we leaving for our children today? That's a big question we have to ask ourselves.